Let's explore the beauty and strength of human emotions together. I cross into the bankrupt, rich young lady, and the system wants me to maintain the pampered person setting. I have to stick to my aloof fiancé from a wealthy family. I need a luxury car to commute. My sheets must be made of real silk, and I only eat fish with the bones removed. I thought he hated me after the system was removed. I reluctantly wanted to bid him farewell before I could speak. He said, "I know I've already bought the limited edition bag you wanted. Can't walk anymore? You've only taken a few steps? Never mind, come up, I'll carry you." Chapter 1. I transmigrated into the role of the evil supporting female character, Andrea. Andrea was originally a rich young lady engaged to the second male lead, Channing. Andrea's parents and Channing's parents were familiar with each other, so when Andrea's family went bankrupt, Channing's family didn't immediately cancel the engagement. However, Andrea was infatuated with the male lead, causing trouble for the main couple and making many mistakes, ultimately being despised by everyone and meeting a tragic end. When I transmigrated, Andrea's family had just gone bankrupt and her parents had returned to their hometown. I, who wanted to return to a normal life, was bound by a system. The system required me to maintain Andrea's original character or else face punishment.
Me.
What kind of character?
System.
The pampered young lady character. I looked at the rundown rental house in an old complex with no elevator, the bare walls, and a total area smaller than a bathroom, and was speechless. The system kindly reminded me, "Actually, there's another option."
Me.
"What is it?" It said, "You can choose to seek refuge with your fiancé, Channing." Channing, the domineering second male lead, was cold and callous. In the original book, although Channing and Andrea were engaged, they had a mutual dislike for each other. He found Andrea's delicate temperament annoying, and Andrea found his icy demeanor off-putting. Although I was sure Channing would kick me out, this was my only option. I reluctantly dragged my suitcase and rang the doorbell at Channing's mansion. After Channing opened the door, his incredibly handsome face looked at me expressionlessly for a few seconds. As he was about to close the door, I quickly squeezed in, greeted him warmly, and said, "Hello. Good evening. The moon is so round tonight. It's been so long, and you're still so charming and handsome, attracting everyone's attention." "Shut up." Channing interrupted me. "Speak normally." I immediately pretended to be pitiful, tears welling up in my eyes as I looked at him. "Channing, can you please take me in for a while?" Chapter 2. Channing's eyes seemed to shoot icy beams, ready to freeze me into a statue. Then he coldly snorted.
Dream on.
Seeing him about to push me out, I closed my eyes, made up my mind, and grabbed his leg, acting shamelessly.
Please.
Otherwise, I'll go ask your parents. They'll definitely agree. My parents were very kind to you, right? They used to buy you gifts during the holidays. Won't you take care of their precious daughter? Upon hearing me bring up our parents, Channing softened a bit, but still gritted his teeth. Let go. If you promise me, I'll let go. My life is at stake. I don't care about my dignity anymore.
Please.
I'm easy to take care of. I won't disturb you.
Please.
We were at the front door, and a neighbor happened to pass by, staring in shock as they watched me crying and hugging Channing's leg with the words, "Young people these days really know how to have fun," written all over my face. Channing's face turned various shades of green and purple, probably sweating profusely under the scrutiny of the neighbors, and quickly moved me into the yard, closing the door. He took a deep breath. "If you don't let go now, you're out." Hearing the implicit meaning in his words, I quickly released my grip, smiled brightly, and said, "Thank you. You're a great person. You will surely live a long life." Channing didn't want to bother with me and walked straight into the house. I followed him into the house. Channing went upstairs and pointed to a guest room, saying, "You'll stay here." Just as I was about to thank him, suddenly, the system spoke. "No." "Me, what do you mean, no?" "System. This bedding set is not made of real silk." I didn't understand. How the system explained to me, it goes against the character setting. Although I was speechless, I had to reluctantly say, "Channing, don't act cute." Channing frowned. "What now?" I pointed to the cotton bedding set. "This isn't real silk, and I can't sleep on it. If looks could kill, I would have been dead 1,000 times over by now from Channing's glare. He threw out it then don't sleep and left, completely ignoring me. Feeling helpless, I thought maybe I should try it out. Who knows, it might work. Before bed, following the system's instructions, I looked for warm milk. Channing was in the living room, and I cautiously approached him. Do you have any warm milk at home? As I spoke, my voice grew softer and more hesitant. I usually have a glass of warm milk before bed.
No.
Channing was very cold. I don't drink milk. What about soy milk? Soy milk should work too.
No.
Disappointed, I let out in. Why don't you have anything at home? Channing couldn't take it anymore. Who said they were easy to take care of? Chapter 3. In the end, Channing had someone bring fresh milk, and after heating it up in the microwave, I finally got the warm milk the system required. As I sipped the milk, I praised Channing. Channing, you're really great. You're the modern lay phone. If you're not around next year, I won't watch China. Channing only replied with 4 words. Cut the act. After finishing the milk, taking a shower, I lay contentedly in bed, ready to sleep. But after just 15 minutes, I started feeling itchy and sore all over. Turning on the light, I saw my skin covered in a rash. I asked the system, "Is this a punishment?"
System.
Yes, dear. I felt like crying. With no other choice, I knocked on Channing's door. Channing angrily opened the door. Before he could scold me, I preemptively showed him my arm.
Look.
I didn't lie to you. Channing looked at the alarming rash, furrowing his brow. Seeing an opportunity, I pulled down my collar slightly, revealing a large crimson patch on my neck. And here.
Look.
It's all red. Isn't it pitiful? Channing's gaze swept over my neck, then quickly averted, coughing awkwardly. Do you think you're the princess and the pea? He walked to the living room, rummaged through the medicine cabinet, and handed me a tube of ointment. Apply it yourself. Gratefully, I took the ointment and looked at him expectantly. The bed sheet. It's late at night. Where do you expect me to find you a silk bedding set? Well, my gaze kept darting towards his room. The bed sheet in your room seems to be silk. Impossible. Channing decisively cut me off. Absolutely not. Half an hour later, I lay comfortably on Channing's big bed, feeling the soft, cool touch of the silk against my skin. Channing, what a good person. A truly good person. Chapter 4. By the time I woke up, Channing had already gone to work, and there was breakfast prepared by the housekeeper on the table. After finishing breakfast, I prepared to head to work. Just as I reached the entrance to the subway station, my feet suddenly felt like they were glued to the ground, unable to move. Panicked, I called out to the system.
System.
What's happening to me? The system remained calm. Dear, the original Andrea never commuted by subway. Perplexed, I turned around and cautiously took a step forward. It worked. I tried a few more times. As long as I didn't head towards the subway station, I was fine going in other directions. Refusing to give up, I decided to take a bus. But the bus was delayed. I tried using a shared bike, but they were either broken or malfunctioning. Seeing that I was going to be late, I opened the ride-hailing app. I'll just take a cab then.
System.
That's fine. 3 seconds later, the system glanced at my screen and spoke again. Dear, carpooling is also not allowed. Tearfully, I canceled the carpooling option. Commute during rush hour, private car, cost me $300. When Channing returned home from work, I was holding 4 bottles of Evian, staring at the double-digit balance on my phone in confusion. Haha. I laughed at my own poverty. Seeing him come back, my eyes lit up, and I rushed over. You're back? Was work tough? Are you tired? Thirsty? Want some water? I opened a bottle and handed it over hospitably. $75 for a bottle. Just as Channing was about to take the water, he withdrew his hand. Where did the water come from? I remembered the look the private car driver gave me when I got off. It was complimentary from the car. Channing, the high and mighty CEO, probably had a hard time understanding, as he looked puzzled. That's not the point. I maintained my attentive demeanor. The point is, can you give me a ride on your way to work in the future? The system stated that according to the character setting, I needed to be chauffeured to and from work. However, my balance wasn't enough for another ride. After some thought, I could only resort to hitching a ride with Channing. Channing's lip twitched. No, I immediately countered. Men shouldn't say no. Channing was speechless. Chapter 5. After my various efforts, I finally secured a prestigious seat in the back of Pamela. To thank Channing, I wanted to give him a gift. On payday, I warmly invited Channing to the mall. What are we going to the mall for? To buy you a gift? I was sincere. You've been so kind to me. I want to repay you. So pick a gift. Channing squinted at me, then smiled meaningfully.
Sure.
I was prepared to be rejected, but he agreed so readily. It wasn't until we reached the mall that I understood the reason behind his smile, because this was an unmissable, excellent opportunity to mock me to his heart's content. He took me to a luxury store, sat on the couch, and casually said, anything in the store, whatever you like, buy it. I looked at the cheapest 4-digit cufflinks in the store and despairingly closed my eyes. Coincidentally, my paycheck was also in 4 digits. When I first received my salary, I thought I had been refunded for something I bought. The sales assistant looked at me expectantly, and I angrily turned to look at Channing. Are you doing this on purpose? I lamented. Do you really think I can't afford it? He looked at me confidently. So, in a fit of anger, I said, you're so clever. I really can't afford it. Channing chuckled lightly, stood up from the couch, and said, all right, let's go. Didn't find anything today. I felt relieved. If you're not buying, then I won't either. No need to give me a gift. After we left, Channing took me to another store. If you want to thank me, help me pick a bag to give to my mom. She didn't like the ones I got her before, saying my taste was bad. This was simple. I quickly chose a classic bag, elegant and simple, something Channing's mom would definitely like. After picking the bag, I casually browsed around the store and happened to glance at a pink crocodile Birkin. I couldn't move, not mentally but physically. My legs just wouldn't budge. I asked the system, could this be? The system cheerfully responded with a yes. As a prestigious heiress, how could you not have a crocodile skin bag? Perhaps noticing my motionless state while staring at the bag, Channing walked over to me. Interested? He understood me so well. I nodded vigorously. Channing smiled. Think about it. I was speechless. Chapter 6. As Channing was about to leave, I immediately grabbed his arm.
Please.
I was on the verge of tears. I'll work like a horse for the rest of my life. I will definitely repay you. The sales assistant came over enthusiastically. Madam, you have great taste. This is a limited edition. There are only 3 in the city, and this is the last one. It turned out to be a limited edition, which explained the hefty price tag. Let's go. Channing ignored me, took the bag from the sales assistant, and left, leaving me standing alone like a statue in front of the pink crocodile leather. The sales assistant was enthusiastic. How about it, madam? If you like it, take it. I acted nonchalant. It's okay. You don't have to mind me. I'll just browse. After standing there for 10 minutes, the sales assistant came back. Are you still considering, madam? Is there something on your mind? Nothing much. My biggest concern was being broke. 20 minutes into my standing punishment, someone approached me. I thought it was the sales assistant again. Teacher, can I watch my son for a little longer? Unexpectedly, it was Channing's voice. You've been watching for 20 minutes, haven't you seen enough? I had seen more than enough. My legs felt like they were stiffening into wood, unable to move, so I could only watch Channing with wide eyes. The next moment, Channing took out a black card from his pocket and handed it to the sales assistant. Can you wrap this one up for me too? Before he finished speaking, my legs returned to normal. I held the wrapped bag and followed behind him. Channing, you're so kind. How can you be so good? Stop flattering me. He didn't even turn back. Consider it a return gift for the birthday presents your parents gave me when we were kids. He had long legs and walked quickly. I tried hard to keep up with him, but after standing for too long, my legs refused to cooperate. I couldn't take more than a few steps before I found myself sitting on a bench by the corridor. Channing walked a short distance before realizing I wasn't following. He looked at me with a "what mischief are you up to?" expression. I awkwardly smiled. Can't move. You've only taken a few steps? Channing chuckled. I'll wait for you in the parking lot. If you're not there in 10 minutes, you're on your own. The thought of the exorbitant taxi fare made me move again. However, after barely lasting 3 seconds, I found myself stuck at the store entrance again. It was all because I lingered a bit too long in front of the window displaying the new formal dresses. Chapter 7. In the end, I dared not look around. Holding the bag and the dress in my hand, I walked back home like a thief, keeping my head down the whole way. Channing looked at me speechlessly, an expression that said he didn't want to know me. How many years do you get for walking with your head down in your world? I was too embarrassed to say anything. I must say, this system is really inconvenient. I couldn't drive, and if the driver wasn't available, I couldn't go out. And when I did go out, there were limitations everywhere. I couldn't go to high-end malls, as I'd end up being a statue outside a luxury store, mistaken by security as a thief and carried away. I couldn't even go to the local market, as it was considered a violation of my character setting. On a Saturday night, Channing had a dinner event, leaving me bored at home, feeling like I was starting to mold. I decided to take a stroll in the neighborhood. Unexpectedly, it started pouring rain shortly after I left. Without an umbrella, I hurried to the nearest shelter, hoping to wait out the rain. Amidst the deafening thunderstorm, I thought I heard a faint meow. It was a weak, feeble sound, sounding pitiful. I looked around and saw a small figure huddled under some bushes nearby. In a rush, I ran towards it in the pouring rain. It was indeed a small cat, likely a stray, skinny with a deep red wound on its leg. Without hesitation, I picked it up and decided to take it to the nearby pet hospital for treatment. The system tried to stop me. The pampered Andrea wouldn't look so disheveled for a stray cat. Indeed, I was completely drenched, covered in mud, completely defying my character's setting. But I couldn't care less. Even though my feet felt glued to the ground, I seemed to summon an infinite amount of strength, lifting my legs with difficulty and making my way towards the entrance. Finally reaching the neighborhood gate, I took out my phone to call a cab, but due to the rainy weather, I couldn't get one. Occasionally, passing taxis refused to pick up a person and a cat in such a state. Feeling lost and desperate, a familiar Pamela stopped in front of us. The rear window rolled down, revealing Channing's face. Andrea? He saw my disheveled state, and his expression turned serious. What's going on? He quickly opened the car door. I got in and showed him the little cat, sounding urgent. Can we go to the nearby pet hospital first? The kitty doesn't look good. Channing didn't hesitate at all, and told the driver. Let's go to the pet hospital first. Knowing that Channing was a bit of a germaphobe, I hesitated to sit too close to him. But he seemed to not mind and handed me a handkerchief. Wipe yourself. Channing took the little cat from me, allowing me to free up my hands to clean my clothes. He draped his coat over me and instructed the driver. Turn up the air conditioning. Perhaps due to the cold, the little cat kept trembling. I wanted to take off Channing's coat to wrap the cat in it. But as soon as I made a move, he seemed to anticipate my actions and held my hand. You wear it. Next, he took out a shirt from the bag at his feet, probably a new purchase, with the price tag still on, showing a 5-digit figure. Channing removed the tag, gently wrapping the shivering cat in the oversized shirt. He patted my shoulder soothingly. Don't worry, we're almost there. Soon enough, we arrived at the pet hospital. The doctor took the cat in for treatment, and I felt a bit of relief. Just as I started to relax, I suddenly felt dizzy and began to sway to the side, unable to stand steadily. Channing quickly steadied me, his large hand covering my forehead. Why are you so hot? In my dizzy state, I thought. It's over. The punishment for defying my character setting had arrived. Chapter 8. The high fever lasted through the night, only easing slightly the next day. Channing had the housekeeper prepare porridge, but I had no appetite and couldn't eat in the afternoon. He returned home and found me still in bed. Feeling better? A bit. I coughed twice and asked, How's the cat doing? He showed me a video on his phone of the cat peacefully drinking milk. It's fine. Still at the pet hospital. I sighed in relief. That's great. Wanting to watch a bit more, Channing turned off the phone. Don't watch too much. Rest more. Noticing the untouched food, he asked. Haven't eaten. I shook my head. No appetite at lunch. You haven't eaten all day? Channing frowned. Do you have an appetite now? Feeling somewhat better, I nodded.
Yes.
Channing kindly brought the porridge over and placed it on the bedside table.
Channing. Eat. Me.
Okay. Then we stared at each other silently for 3 minutes. Channing looked at me with a puzzled expression. I didn't want to eat. However, the system told me Andrea, a pampered heiress, needed to be fed in such a vulnerable state. Not wanting to face another punishment, I reluctantly said, "My hands are weak." Channing's expression briefly showed confusion. You don't mean what I'm thinking, do you? I nodded. It's probably what you're thinking. Channing fell silent for a moment, as if engaged in an intense internal struggle. However, he soon sighed resignedly, picked up the porridge, scooped a spoonful, and brought it to my lips. My stomach was growling, but my mouth stayed shut. Noticing my lack of movement, Channing asked, "What's wrong now, miss?" With a heart as heavy as lead, I repeated the ridiculous statement the system had implanted in my mind. It has onions. What? Onions? I dared not look at Channing's face, fearing he might unleash a beam of light to strike me down. I don't eat onions. Channing didn't say a word. After a few seconds, I sneakily glanced his way. I thought he might have secretly added something to the porridge, but to my surprise, Channing was diligently picking out the onions. Watching him quietly remove the onions, my heart inexplicably quickened a bit. Indeed, being virtuous is the best form of male beauty. I forced myself to shift my focus and flatteringly praised Channing. You're so kind. You're the most handsome guy in the whole world. Channing didn't even look up, continuing to pick out the onions. Apart from saying that, what else can you do? I promptly recited the rainbow farts I had learned before. Big brother, you are 4 sets minus 3 sets, handsome with 1 set. You're so handsome. A miracle as handsome as the golden ratio of Venus. Channing removed all the onions, scooped up a spoon of porridge, and fed it to me. Stop being silly, eat. Chapter 9. After being discharged from the hospital, Channing brought the little cat back home. It wasn't the most visually pleasing cat, but I loved it and named it a Mimi. At first, Channing disagreed because I was allergic to cat fur. I wasn't originally allergic, but this was my punishment for defying my character's setting. The original Andrea would only have a cute and noble cat, worth at least 5 digits. Not this less attractive, fragile little stray cat. But I adored Mimi. I thought it was the cutest cat in the world. No, I can't be separated from Mimi. I persisted. Listen, it just called me a mom, baby. Mommy misses you so much that she can only manage 3 proper meals a day, an afternoon tea, and a late-night snack. Helpless, Channing had no choice but to agree. However, he purchased an expensive air purifier, instructed the housekeeper to increase the cleaning frequency, and even arranged for me to get desensitization shots. I was so touched that I was on the verge of offering myself in gratitude. But considering that Channing probably wouldn't want me to offer myself, I refrained from making that suggestion. Until one day, Channing casually mentioned that his cousin's birthday was next week, and they were planning a birthday party. I suddenly remembered, Channing's cousin James seemed to be the male lead. And Channing, he met the female lead Judith at James's birthday party. Judith is a strong-willed beauty, brave and kind, the perfect contrast to the original female second lead. Yes, I could match them together to repay Channing. At this point, Judith and James were only acquaintances in a work setting, so it would be easy to interfere. Don't worry. I'll make you go from the male second lead to the male lead. Since I had an engagement with Channing, I also received an invitation. However, on James's birthday, I was rejected when I tried to get into the car with Channing.
Why?
You're quite delusional. Channing coldly snorted. Riding in your fiancé's car, going to the birthday party of someone you like, are you trying to have the best of both worlds? I was utterly confused. What best of both worlds? However, when Channing found out that I not only hadn't brought any gifts, but also planned to freeload off James at the party, he was delighted. He let me back into the car, looking very pleased and satisfied. the complexities of the male heart. As soon as we entered the mansion, I left Channing and began searching the entire mansion for Judith. After a while, I finally saw her at the corner of the staircase, looking at a gift box with a troubled expression. I approached warmly. "Why aren't you going inside?" When she saw me, she hesitated for a moment before saying, "I feel a bit embarrassed. The gifts others brought seem quite expensive." She bit her lip. "Mine seems too cheap." Judith came from a modest background, so upon meeting the affluent James, she often felt insecure. I looked at the beautifully wrapped box. "How much did you spend?" She seemed embarrassed. "Don't laugh at me, just over 2,000. My jaw dropped. I was so surprised that my accent slipped out. "You said how much?" Judith probably thought I found it too little. "It's probably a bit less compared to yours." "Too much," I interrupted. "Why spend so much money on a man?" "Do you know how much I spent?" Judith shook her head in confusion. I gestured with my hand to indicate 0. "Nothing." She stared at me in a daze, her expression subtle. Chapter 10. With me as a backdrop, Judith noticeably gained more confidence. She mustered the courage to go and give her gift while I started my freeload eating and drinking. The system attempted to stop me, but I quickly retorted. "What's wrong? How does a pampered heiress having a couple of slices of black velvet cake hurt anyone?" As I was eating my third plate of caviar and foie gras, a girl walked over. She looked at me disdainfully. Well, isn't this Andrea? How come you're in such a pitiful state after going bankrupt, here to freeload on the food and drinks?" I looked at that unfamiliar face, and the system introduced in my ear. "One of the malicious NPCs, Lisa, used to play with you. After your bankruptcy, she began to kick you when you were down." "Oh, an NPC? No problem. At least I was the female second lead, so what's there to compare with an NPC?" Ignoring her, I stuffed 2 slices of Spanish ham into my mouth. Seeing my lack of response, Lisa became even more arrogant. "Andrea, don't you feel embarrassed? James already dislikes you so much, and here you are, seeking more embarrassment?" Before I could say anything, Judith rushed over and stood in front of me, defending me to Lisa. "Why do you speak that way?" Lisa was taken aback by her fierceness and raised her voice. "And who are you to talk to me? Do you know who I am?" Judith firmly replied. "No matter who you are, you can't speak to others like that." Perhaps in a moment of anger, Lisa reached for a glass on the table, apparently intending to splash it on Judith. Reacting quickly, I pulled Judith over, and I ended up getting drenched in wine. The red wine stains dripping down my white dress made my heart ache. Oh no, my only formal dress. A 6-digit formal dress. The dress that Channing bought for me after standing at the store entrance for 10 minutes. I immediately wanted to run to the restroom to see if there was a way to salvage it. But my feet wouldn't move. In utter despair, I asked the system, "What now?" The system replied excitedly, "Darling, you're a pampered heiress. How can you run after being splashed?" "What?" I was speechless again. What should I do then? The system's voice was filled with excitement at the drama unfolding. Splash her back. Grab her hair. Slap her. By now, everyone in the hall was drawn to our commotion, their eyes on us. Channing and James also looked our way. I sighed and said to Lisa, "Get ready." She looked puzzled. "Ready for what?" I replied, "I'm going to make a scene." Lisa looked baffled. With that, I picked up a glass and splashed it back at Lisa. Chapter 11. Lisa and I got into a scuffle. Following the system's instructions, I grabbed her hair, slapped her, and pushed her to the ground, hitting her relentlessly.